I want to be mindful of everyone's time while we're here, just because it is scheduled for 2 hours, but we'll just kind of see, and I want to make sure we have enough time for discussion.
So my name's Connor.
For folks who don't know me, I work at the Rec Room. I am the peer education coordinator there and coordinate my lovely fellow peer educators. As well, working with Anna Meredith of the Rec Room as well. And then I also have another position with Amy at Haven House. I coordinate the Green Dot program across the state, across Homer. Sometimes the state, yeah. They're always coming to us. So yeah, thanks for coming. We're really appreciative to have all y'all here. Feel free to get some sushi at any time. There's plenty over there, and if someone wants to grab me a plate of sushi too, I would totally welcome that. All right. So first, I just want to do a couple introductions of folks who have come in, who have a bunch of resources back at the back table. Jess, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Sure.
Just as from.
Do you want me to point out my resources too?
Now would be a great time, yeah.
Now would be a great time, yeah. Just so people are still getting settled.
Sure. My name is Jess. I'm with Recover Alaska in Anchorage. We're an initiative working to reduce access to alcohol use throughout the state. So I heard about this program, and I was like, please, let me be a part of it. And so they were very kind and allowed me to be here tonight. I have some resources, more information about Recover if you're interested in what we do or want more information about who we are. We also have a resource center, so this is not specific to youth. It's for anybody of any age, whether or not they themselves are having substance misuse issues, if they're or somebody that they know is seeking access to treatment or other support services. We have a partnership with Alaska 201, so more information about that here. We have information about BU Alaska, which is an underage alcohol prevention campaign. So you can learn more about that here. We're sort of in the middle of advancing BU, so stay tuned. We have some pretty exciting stuff around. And then just some information, some from SAMHSA, which is this federal entity, and then information from the Prevention Action Alliance, just about how to have a conversation with young people, why you should have a conversation, and really just understanding that research shows that parents and adults really are the #1 influence in a young person's decision to start using substances, not in how they talk about it or don't talk about it, but also in how they model that behavior. So resources for you, and you can always chat with me afterward.
Thank you. Olivia, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Olivia Erickson. I have 2 hats here, I guess, today. I'm with public health nursing, so one of the public health nurses in town. And we have been kind of helping with a bunch of the opioid prevention work in town, but also have like medication disposal kits available for like old medications that you can get rid of them safely, just putting them in here and throwing them away. We have those available at Homer Public Health, as well as Narcan kits for opioid overdose response kits. And then the other hat is Safe Families for Children. So that's a local program that will connect a family who's experiencing maybe a crisis or needs like or it wants to meet a goal and needs a safe place for their kids to be while they do that. They can reach out to Safe Families for Children, and their children can stay with a host family that's been background checked. And they're also surrounded with a bunch of other volunteers who are kind of looking out and trying to help meet their needs during whatever they're working through. And so that's a new resource that started here in January, and we have information on how to get involved, as well as the number that somebody would call if they'd like to utilize that resource. So that's all here.
Awesome. Thanks, Olivia. Karen, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm going to pass it on to Sue. All right. My name is Sue Reynolds. Karen Chevin. We run the Parenting with Love Unlimited program, which is a free parenting program where we provide coaching to families for their teens and adolescents in the home. And we have an over 85% success rate, so the odds are really good that there's challenges at home that we can help fix them. We provide food and child care and transportation help if that's ever needed. And we like their jobs. We'll be up in the street.
Awesome, thank you. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
I'm Chris Fontaine. I'm a nurse at the hospital, and I have been involved in planning and presenting these lesson plans with the students, and I will talk a little bit later about my participation in that.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Meredith, I'm the program manager at the Rec Room at Ketchum McVeigh Family Planning Clinic. Before I forget, I want to do a shout out that KBBI is here, and we also are on YouTube Live, just to respect everybody. And I've been involved with the development of this substance misuse prevention lesson package since last August, and have been facilitating it here at Homer Middle School, all 4 quarters, and then Fort Graham, and Wallach, and Seldovia. And while it did not happen, the wind shut us down yesterday. Amy and I went on a plane that did a bank turn and brought us back to Homer. So we did not facilitate in Wallach, but we hope to in May. And spread the lessons. And it's been really fun to teach this subject, which is new to us at the Rec Room. We primarily do reproductive health and suicide prevention and mental health support and lots of different adolescent topics. But this has been new to us. It was awesome to have Jenny Espenshade as kind of the driving force to bring it all together. So it's been great.
Hi everybody, my name is Amy Woodruff. I work at Haven House and I run the violence prevention programs there, which include Green Dot, Girls on the Run, the Southern Kenai Peninsula Resilience Coalition, which is really like a community effort to build resilience and kind of prevent the negative effects of adverse childhood experiences. And also a lot of outreach in the schools, of which this is one program, and it's been really exciting and rewarding to create this with all these community partners to get this information out to teens.
Cool. So I first just want to give you all a quick rundown of what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to spend the entire time talking about the 3 days of our lessons. We have, our first day is all about the stages of addiction, what that looks like, how it affects people, maybe kind of the signs of what misuse might start to look like as folks are getting into these decisions. The second day is all about the panel, and that includes Chris and a couple other community members that come into the school and are talking with the students and giving them prompts, and we're going to have our peer eds actually read out some quotes from middle schoolers that they provided to us, specifically kind of what they wanted their parents to know about this. So we're really excited about that. And then we'll finish up today with day 3, and that's all about kind of your mental health. How are you taking care of yourself and steering away from those choices that would lead us to substance use? And how do we encourage that in all of our teens and all of our youth? For parents out there, you'll hopefully be able to walk away with this, with the skills to talk to your teen about this. It is a difficult conversation, but hopefully you'll feel more empowered to do so. And feel free to stop us at any time if you have questions. I'm totally open to that. I want this to be as casual as it can be while we're going through this.
So what we have here is, on the right-hand side is the PowerPoint that we use with the classes, and then just a little bit of guiding stuff on the left there. The day 1 lesson, we always start off with kids kind of with a couple of ground rules and setting expectations. So that's really getting those group agreements together and generating that from the teens themselves, having them talk about the space that they want to create in the classroom to be comfortable talking about these difficult topics. And that's also when we talk to them about our role as mandated reporters, that if they are going to, if they tell us that they're going to kill themselves, that someone has hurt them, or that they're hurting someone else, those are things that when a person is under 18, we're required to report in order to protect them. So that's just setting the stage for how we want that conversation to be safe, but also letting them know what our responsibility is.
We also have a box for anonymous
questions that we allow students to put their questions in. It just allows the anonymity. Sometimes kids don't want to ask the difficult questions. We began that process with our reproductive health lessons, but it just made sense to kind of put it in with substance misuse, because there are questions out there that we do get that are pretty powerful as well. We don't do any behavioral questions. That's something that we get asked occasionally, but it's strictly kind of based on the scientific information that we find about their question. So we can talk about that further if need be.
One of the things that kind of carries through all of the lessons that that we in peer eds do in the schools is just teaching mindfulness, different ways of engaging with the body and really being present, because cultivating that behavior is one of the best ways to cope with stress. And so this version of core practice, which we call core because it's really central to cultivating good mental health and wellness, is just about focusing on your breath. And we really like this shape because it gives kids something to focus on rather than just closing their eyes or staring at the floor. But if we can just do this for a couple breaths. You breathe in, just watch how the shape grows, and then breathe out. And for some people it is a big jump to slow down your breathing that much, so if it's not comfortable, don't force it. But just for the next 5 breaths or so, focus on the shape and sink, get in sync. I don't know about you all, but I really felt the sushi. And the other thing that's kind of powerful about this is that the whole room is in sync, not just with the shape, but with each other. And so it's kind of a nice way to center before we jump into what can be a really difficult topic.
And on that note, this is a difficult topic. If this is something that you maybe have an emotional response to, that's totally fine. We just welcome you to kind of step outside and take care of yourself throughout this time, whatever you need to do.
One of the first things that we
start with is just going over some definitions. We have the students write them down. These are the definitions that we've been using. We've kind of modified them over time. It is still kind of a work in progress of finding the right language and making sure that we're fully rounding our lessons out. But really starting with what a substance is, any drug or alcohol. We look at addiction as a disease, and a disease as we define it as a disorder, illness, or sickness with specific signs and symptoms. We ask for examples of diseases, kind of having them discuss that within their groups. Being able to relate addiction back to a specific disease is a good way to start. Just to start, do you want to kind of go over?
Yeah, so then the stages of substance use, if you don't include abstinence, or the stage of not using a substance, are substance use, substance misuse, and addiction. And so substance use is the use of a substance that's responsible, healthy, and does not cause problems for a person. And we want to start with that because I think when we talk about addiction, sometimes that specter can really cloud just any experience with substances. And we want to make it clear that it is quite possible for adults to make responsible choices with substances. Substance misuse is the use of a substance that causes problems at home, work, or school, or health or legal issues. So at that point, it hasn't reached the state of addiction just on the level of brain chemistry, but the substance use is starting to cause problems. And then addiction is a treatable brain disease, and managing risk is important in order to prevent addiction. And then prevention is the act of stopping something from happening or its harmful effects.
A big note
about our lessons is that we look at addiction as a preventable disease. And that's something that we've received some feedback on because not everyone always agrees with that. But the way that we frame these lessons is we want it to be an optimistic message. That if we're sending this message to teens, that we want to give them the agency to make the right choices around substance use. We recognize that not everyone is going to stay abstinent. And I think that it's kind of foolhardy to think that that's true. So giving people the tools on how to use it in an intelligent way, and looking at addiction as something that we all have our role in playing to prevent it, based on our own personal agency, is the most optimistic message that we can spread. And so that kids aren't looking at their parents who may have substance use issues and thinking that their situation is hopeless. If they're told that it isn't preventable, then they might start to see themselves as failures or their parents as failures, and that isn't the type of messaging that we want to have. Yeah.
one request.
Yeah.
Can you introduce our health teachers
Yeah.
that are also here?
Yeah.
Please?
Yes, please.
So we have John in the back.
So we have John in the back.
I'm
I'm gonna put you too much on the spot. John is the 8th grade health teacher here. We work with him quite regularly. And then we have Miss Bonnie Jason as well. Here. So, and she's the 7th grade health teacher. So we're very excited. Thank you, Carrie.
In case everybody doesn't know, Gary Dunn
Yeah.
is the principal we've been working with this whole year that allowed this into a school for the first time, and that's really been the springboard for all of this lesson package.
Okay. So this is something we created to kind of graphically represent something that we struggle to articulate without the aid of this image, which is just that the path to addiction can be different for different people. There's no set progression. It is not inevitable that once a person starts using substances that they would become addicted to that substance. And some people can become addicted the first time that they use a substance. Or people can use for a long time and over time progress to abuse and then to addiction. And so we just explain to students that each of these kind of rows represents one person and their experience with substances. So along the bottom, if I'll explain the colors, I think it's not too complicated, right? But we've got abstinence. Everyone starts in this phase of being abstinent from using a substance or just not using it, right? So we have all these people starting there, and this person just chose not to use substances at all. And then up here we have someone who used a substance and transitioned into addiction, the light blue. On the top, someone who just had a healthy relationship with substances and continued using throughout their lifetime. Or this person who started using and then transitioned into abuse. So we just want to represent to kids that it's not, there's no set timeline, and there's no way that we as educators can tell them what it would look like for them. But we can give them the definitions for these different phases and kind of help them cultivate the self-awareness to maybe recognize when something might be becoming a problem for them or for someone else.
Part of that messaging is.
And part of that messaging is how do we talk? Why do people use? That's one of the questions that we ask is what leads a teen to use? What are the reasons? And then what are the reasons why they're not using? And kind of giving them both sides of that and being able to identify that, I think allows people to look inside and really realize what their opinions are on it.
And I mean, we get some obvious answers, you know, I don't want to get in trouble, I don't like how it feels, I like being in control. I think one of the ones that was a big surprise for me was, or not a surprise, but just a different perspective, was a lot of kids who are in sports are working so hard to get in shape and to cultivate that for themselves that they choose not to use because they don't want to they don't want to risk that. And what are some of the reasons that kids said that teens might choose?
Curiosity.
Curiosity for the fun of it. Peer pressure is one that often comes up, and we'll be discussing that more. As well as their parents' use. A lot of teens talk about their own parents' usage, and then kind of feel like it's inevitable that they fall into that. Were there any others that stood out to you?
No, that's about it.
Those are the main ones.
And for the most part, when the talk, we don't get into the details of the effects of any particular substance or the experience, but we did include a little bit about opioids just because that is one of the things that there's the greatest concern about in this community. It was really the impetus for putting this class together in the first place. And this is the most recent data from the statewide YRBS survey, so Youth Risk Behavioral Survey. And it's administered to high school students all over Alaska. And the one that's kind of striking is the last one to me, that only half of students think that they risk harming themselves if they use opioid painkillers in a way that is not prescribed. Either using someone else's medications or differently than it was prescribed to them. So it does kind of, we just try to highlight that for teens, and because when we ask them to name substances, consistently the things that get left off that list are often prescription pain pills and almost always caffeine. Almost always. But when we talk about prescription medications, it's only safe in the context of a doctor's ongoing supervision. And the reason that they're controlled and they have to be prescribed is because if they're not used right, they can cause harm. And so we just try to use this to highlight that with the teens.
All that was kind of all the
So all that was kind of all the information that we do in day one, just kind of covering a whole wide range of topics. It is a lot of sit and get. We're working on that, but it's just kind of, that's how our information is delivered right now. These are the panel of experts that come in on day two. These are kind of most common ones. We have Tim Robinson, who represents Catchment Counseling. We have Connor Berry, who's part of the Department of Justice. He comes down from Kenai to help out. Ginny Espenshade from Kenai Peninsula Youth Court. Chris Fontaine is a big part of that as well. And then Andy Haas was actually one of the first ones to bring everyone together to talk about this, and he helped out with, I think, one of the first.
Yeah, he's kind of the motivator. He brought it to Ginny Espenshade.
Because it really was a panel. We had, you know, like a row of chairs up at the front, and you could ask questions to these very special people that were at the front of the class. But then, what happened?
I think it was the health teachers who wrote that.
Yeah.
That's not the best way to do that.
Yeah, and we definitely heard that message, and we ended up breaking them into small groups. And Chris can go a little bit further into that, as she was one of the small group leaders.
So, day two, we had the teachers be so pleasant to allow us to participate with their students and break us into 3 groups. So Ginny Espenshade would take one group, I would take another group, and say Tim Robinson or Connor Berry would have another group of about maybe 8 students in each group, and sit down and talk to them about different supportive factors and be able to listen to them. And I am a forensic nurse at the hospital, and the way I participate in this group is because I'm not an expert on substance misuse or addiction. I am a forensic nurse, which means I work with patients who've experienced violence or trauma. So something like interpersonal violence, domestic violence, sexual abuse, sexual assault, and any kind of child neglect or maltreatment. So as you probably know, substance misuse is profoundly within all of those issues and comes up a lot. Not always, for sure. There's situations where it's not involved, but for the vast majority of our patients, it's either directly involved in an assault against them, or it's in their homes or their families, and so it's impacting them in many ways. And so by having the adults there that might end up working with kids when there is a crisis, with if someone ends up in youth court or someone ends up, you know, going for therapy, we're trying to break down those barriers so that the first time I see someone maybe isn't in that situation when they're having a forensic interview after they got hurt by someone. And so it was really amazing to me because I'm also a parent of a middle schooler. My son is in 7th grade. And I appreciate so much this is happening, you know, as a parent. So I really appreciate the administrative support for that and the community support, and the fact that it's evidence-based makes a big difference for me. I wouldn't be able to be involved in it if it wasn't based in science and evidence. And I know that I want to listen to students. So Ginny would ask the students, you know, let's write down on a piece of paper how many people in your lives that support you or listen to you, how many adults in your life, safe adults, that kind of thing. And so they'd have a discussion around that. Tim Robinson or Connor Berry would talk about, like, what things can you do besides drugs, basically, you know. So they would talk about preventative things like outdoors, you know, friends, faith-based, sports, you know, family events, stuff that's resilient and protective. And my group, I realized that I really wanted to know what the Homer middle schoolers wanted us to know. What do you want the adults to know about this stuff? And left it at that. Completely open-ended. This is not a survey in any way, shape, or form. This isn't like a behavioral survey. Did you ever do drugs? Did you ever do that? No. Wasn't a direct question. So I would say about 90% of the students that, you know, were in those classes, they answered really genuinely and honestly and actually thought about it and gave a really thoughtful answer. So I just want to appreciate them and just, you know, say thank you for their trust to talk to us. because I was blown away by the things that they said, to be quite honest. And I thought I kind of knew, what was up. And I was really, first of all, impressed by their respect for each other and their really compassion for each other and kind of understanding that not everyone has a perfect life, even if they do, kind of thing. They were very empathetic, and they were also very genuine and real. So listening to the students answer an open-ended question, what should we know? What should the adults in your life know? What should your parents or guardians know? And thank you guys for helping us with this.
You want to read that out loud first?
Dear Homer Middle School students, sincere thanks for these thoughtful and genuine responses. We respect your experiences and honor your wisdom. Thank you for trusting us with your words. We hope to learn from them with much admiration. Substance misuse prevention team.
So we're going to have our peer eds read out a couple of these quotes, and they're separated into 3 categories. The first of which is parents and family, and these are all kind of those that are focused on use within the parents and the family. So.
And I'll just say that the students were given the option to indicate if they did not want their responses to be shared, and they were told that they would be shared. So this is all with the understanding that we would be hearing.
Thank you for that. They wanted you to know this, okay? They told me, and they had the option to say, don't share this. They all wanted to share it within their groups, except like 1 or 2. One kid didn't want to share it in the group, and 1 kid didn't want to share it here tonight. The rest of them wanted you to know this.
Everyone up.
Go for it. There's never been a point in my life when I haven't been exposed to drugs and or alcohol, and people don't understand how painful.
I hate seeing my parents drink and smoke. They can get pretty aggressive when they don't have any.
I don't like it when you're around people at parties who are drinking or smoking. Also, I don't like it when you overuse a drug.
I don't like how drugs and alcohol turn somebody into a different person. Remembers how his parent was high, so the child only remembers how his parent was high or drunk.
The rare occasion when my parents are drunk, they let me do more fun stuff.
I know when I see my mom drink or my dad smoke, it bothers me, but I'm always afraid to say something because I'm afraid to make them upset or they'll just get mad at me. Just think about how it might make others feel because they might not want to say anything.
Those are all the parents and family.
And those, again, this is not any sort of survey, but those were a lot. Those were about like 40% of the responses mentioned their families or their parents. Another huge chunk was peers and friends and older teens.
That's this next chunk.
I have offered my friend a place to stay at my house if they needed to get away or take a break from their parents drinking.
I tell my friends I'm there to talk if I know their parents use drugs and drink a lot.
I've encountered drugs and alcohol a lot, and every time they are either peers or high schoolers, and most of the time, if they offer, they're cool with you just saying no. So I don't really have problems being coerced to doing drugs and or alcohol.
I'm aware that some substances are more easily addicted to. I have had encounters with adolescents drinking it and it makes me anxious. All drinking substances make me anxious. I don't have much experience with close ones' problems. I know the effects, and I want to avoid substances at all costs.
People peer pressure you to do drugs so that you have something in common with them.
I've never been offered drugs, but I know at least 1 kid who does drugs, and it's pretty crazy.
Those are all the ones that were kind of the highlights of those. Like, again, we had over probably 100 or so quotes. It was a lot to sift through to really kind of narrow it down into these. So thank you, Chris, for doing a lot of that.
One category that we didn't focus on tonight is this another huge chunk. You know, some students made maybe 1 comment, some made a couple comments, so they might have, had a couple different perspectives. another huge section of students just really doesn't have any interaction with substances at all. You know, they're like, nothing going on in my life with that, you know, no one at home using that, my parents have a drink once in a while, it's no big deal. Either completely absent from their world or it didn't impact or, you know, affect them. And the next section that we really wanted to make sure that we listened to, and then we'll have a chance to discuss as a group any and all of this. And I'd love to hear all of your responses. You know, this next section is kind of things that, okay, listen up, folks. This is what they want you to know. These were sort of like the direct, please tell my parents this.
I think parents should know that plenty of kids, even me, have been offered drugs, and the kids I know almost all said no, including me.
My friend has been asked to do drugs and he doesn't know what to do.
I think parents should know that the more they keep their kids sheltered, the more they want to rebel.
Not to interrupt in the middle of while I'm trying to tell them what happened.
You need to be prepared to talk to your kid about drugs.
I wish they would know not to freak out and make it a big deal and just be calm about it.
They should know how to help their child if they come to them for help. They should be able to notice the signs of their child is using a substance.
My dad made a plan with me so that I could get a safe ride home.
I don't feel pressured by it. I know where I stand, which is no, even though sometimes the adults around me do.
I wish my parents would understand that I know what to do in these situations and trust me in these circumstances.
I think the most important thing to know about youth with drugs and alcohol is to keep in mind of how come kids do it. Stress, sadness, I think it's important to provide comfort.
I think they should know that at any age, they should talk to us about abuse and drugs aren't good for adults too.
They should know that I've heard this a lot of times before, but I still pay attention, even though it is boring sometimes. I do want to drink at some point, nothing underage or involving drugs, and I'm afraid of being in a situation in which I have to make a choice. I wish these bad things are not a thing, and that drinking was kind of an alright thing to do.
Adults should know that using alcohol or drugs are bad for young growing kids, and that too much is also bad. Adults should know that kids look up to them and should set a good example around substances involving drugs or alcohol.
Those were all the quotes that are kind of chosen for this presentation. We'll have a couple more. We'll be doing a little role play activity kind of with your tables here in a few minutes. But I just wanted to hear if there were any thoughts about any of those quotes or anything that surprised y'all that came out of those. Because I know for me it was kind of startling reading just reading through them. I was like, holy cow! You know, these are kids in 7th and 8th grade that are coming up with this. It's very powerful.
I can go ahead and share. The quotes were sent to me prior to the presentation today, and I was just telling Leslie that I read so many of them, and it was hard for me because so many of the students were outreaching and saying that there's drugs and alcohol in their household. And I think as an administrator, I don't think I was as aware, and so I really wanted to make sure I was sitting here listening today to be able to provide support for our students, but because I know we're doing a wonderful job in our health classes, but some of these kids aren't getting it until 4th quarter. And so I really want to try to work to make sure that we do have some type of support. And I know there's the Al-Anon or Alateen and some different things out there, but I just really want to make sure that we as a school can be really supportive for our students because they are sharing and they do want us to know. And so it just kind of broke my heart, but if we definitely can do something to try to help support our kids, I want to make sure we're doing that.
Thank you, Carrie. Anyone else have any other thoughts that came up here? Or any that surprised you or anything like that? It's okay if not, that's totally fine.
Would you guys introduce themselves?
Oh, sorry guys, yeah.
So if you guys don't know who we are, we're the peer education team. So we go around to 11 different communities with Connor and Anna and teach reproductive health as well as a variety of other subjects. So I'm Leah.
I'm Ethan. Parker.
And I'm Sayora.
Nice to meet all of you.
take a quick break.
I'm going to take a quick break, just like for 5-10 minutes or so, just to give you all a little bit of time and space, since that was a little bit of a heavier section. So feel free to grab more sushi. You can come up and talk to any presenters and the peer heads. We're all open books. Yes.
I'm actually the
I think I sent it to him. My dad messaged me. I'm sure he's listening right now. It's like, okay, don't embarrass the family. Thanks, Dad. Appreciate that.
We just got
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was really excited that we were breaking out from just social cult because it's a form of education that students don't really get.
I'm excited. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
There's one person watching. There was two people.
actually found basically slightly larger. Yeah, I mean it's 7 miles down. I'm only 10 miles from town.
It was enthralling and exhilarating. Even I know that.
Yeah. Need a high shoe. Oh my god, that's where the high shoe is. Like to make it. Yeah. Why are you going to the shore?
It's okay. I was thinking that like all week I should add something. It's fine.
There's some sushi. Thank you. I finally got. Sorry, I missed the lead.
It's okay. We only have, I mean, the folks who helped work on these lessons far outnumber those who are parents. It's still working. It like kind of, it says it's live. It says it's live, but this says live stream offline. And maybe I'm just nuts.
Well, 2 people are watching it, so I'd hope not. Look, here. Copy video URL.
Oh, yeah. Are you okay? Like sick or just sick? Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Okay. Awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry, it just looked offline. It has that. Ready? Oh my gosh. We gotta muscle that. Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry, it just sorry. You don't have to be ready, I do. Bring the attention back up here real quick. I want to give a quick shout out to Homer Emblem Club. Thank you to the Homer Emblem Club for providing $300 for sushi tonight. So if you know anyone taking part in that, please just activity with the off. And the idea with this, each table,
your job as a tabler is to come up with some responses to these quotes. Again, these are things that we've heard actually our middle schoolers say. And we want you to come up with what you would do if someone said this to you, if your team said this to you, or if your team's friend said this to you.
There are a variety of them.
Some of them you might have heard before. Some of them you might not have. They might surprise you. But I just want everyone to come up with as genuine and authentic a response as you can, based on kind of what you know of how to talk to your team.
Some of this
can be based off of the resource packets that we have in the back. There is it's a two-piece of paper packet. Yes, Amy's holding one up. On the front of it is a letter to parents from teens that was written by a former peer educator. And on the second page, there's a little table that says, say this, not that. And it's a basic tooltip on how you can talk to your teen in a really constructive way. Teens often feel shut out and maybe not listened to, but that gives parents an opportunity just to kind of think of how they're talking to their teen and how to respectfully manage those difficult emotions around this topic. So if everyone wants to open up their envelope and read the quotes, maybe find one that you identify with or something like that, then on the back side of that, I'd like you to write your actual response, your word-for-word response. If you all need pens, I'm sure we could find some around. I know I definitely have some, so. I know, yeah. I know. Couple pens for you. Yeah. Couple pens for you. Yeah, of course. Another one. Prepared? Good. I like it.
To say no when you're being so response. So I would probably respond by saying, there are different ways to respond to peer pressure. One factor, and Chris is a ton of being assertive is the best tactic. And maybe I would talk with I have an 8-year-old, but my son through and then barriers to why he might not want to be assertive, like confidence or doesn't know the right words to say. It kind of goes back to like reading doctrines. The best way to be in this situation is just like sometimes and we always have our best conversations in the car. So kids are very
So you would know all respond to the same question, or kids might not know the exact should lie.
Steve, listen.
No, I
How are these okay?
I'm not going to put that in my phone for a long time. No, right on the back. I hope my parents would not argue with me.
Can I take a quarter?
Yeah.
How long have you been
And part of the education work on day one when they talk about the science of addiction, I think that they talk about, what we know like the risk is. Putting it out as long as possible is sort of a strategy for you or something.
is there any, maybe even evaluate kind of what was being said? That way parents can actually hear from the teenager how that would fall on connected with. Is there anyone that would like to share their responses? Brett, I know you had a couple good ones that I don't want to like. I guess I heard you.
I missed what you were saying. Was it just pick one to share?
Yeah, just you can pick one to share or a couple, however you like.
We could say to them, do what I say, not. You know what? For this one, I wrote what the parent could say to the kid to the parent. You might say, do what I say, not what I do, but it's hypocritical and doesn't work. Did I get it? It would be what we would say.
Yeah, you want to how the parent would react to if their child said this quote. Sorry if I
Right. Sorry. Okay. So another one would be it's difficult to say no when you're being peer pressured. But how about if we come up with some ideas together to help you stay safe and save face? Let's work out a plan.
Yeah, I think that's really cool because you're putting like action items towards it, which is probably we speak up. Oh yeah, it's pretty cool because you're like putting action items like up against it. You're not just saying like telling it, but you're also giving them like a suggestion to how to help it.
Maybe one more was drugs and alcohol have been in my family for a long time. I've had family friends die from overdose. It was sad. I would hope my parents wouldn't argue with each other because of me bringing things up. I just started with that sounds really hard. Is there anyone else you can talk to that you trust?
I like that. I think it's really important to address their well-being first instead of like, I don't want to say ulterior motive because that makes it seem negative, and it would be more negative than it would be, but definitely addressing a problem with care to the kid and showing that you just want what's best for them is a really important thing or aspect to think about when talking about important
Is there another table that'd be willing to share? Any other thoughts? Sure. Yeah. No problem.
I want my parents to know that it makes me feel really unsafe when they drink. And what we came up with is, thank you for telling us. I hear what you're saying. This is obviously important.
Lynn, how do you think you would further that conversation?
I mean, in the situation where you're talking with somebody else's child, I would say, have you asked them? Or have you told them your things? Because without sharing, how can they know?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want to share one?
Well, just in regards to they say don't do drugs even though they do them themselves. And I really liked your slide at the beginning where you talked about substance use, misuse, and addiction. And just talking to them about the reality is a lot of people around you are using substances and just approaching those 3 steps in progression to misuse and addiction. A lot of parents are using drugs and alcohol, in safe, responsible ways, but empowering a child to recognize when it becomes unsafe and be able to make a decision for themselves is to
That was definitely part of the goal of this entire event, is giving parents the same language that we use with kids. Being able to use that abuse, misuse, use. What are the differences between those? And ideally, walking out of here, you'll understand how to be able to have those conversations. Because just like you pointed out when I was standing there, you watch an hour of primetime TV, you'll see 6, 7, 8 beverages consumed easily. That's just part of our culture. But how do we have a safer conversation around this? Because it is something that is so commonplace. You watch an hour of primetime tables that would like to share their responses, or anyone else that has a question about any of these quotes, or maybe even a comment about any of the previous quotes? Just open the floor if there's anything else.
I just wanted to Eva was saying, because she's totally right about the research showing the earlier a person starts using a substance, the more likely they are to develop an addiction to that substance or other substances. And part of that conversation could also convene talking about low-risk use, so even a substance like alcohol. Federal guidelines define low-risk consumption as no more than 7 drinks per week for women, no more than 14 drinks, standard drinks per week for a man. There's tons of information if you're wanting to look more into that. But so having that be part of the conversation too, and then I think it's also really important to check ourselves as adults and say, are we over-consuming? Because if we are, then it is kind of a do as I say, not as I do situation, regardless of it being risky for underage folks to consume substances. You don't want them to like turn 25 and start binge drinking.
That's a lot. Okay, fine. I can do that, I guess. What?
Is it brain done?
Brain's done? Definitely. And what's something else that I want to
Well, and just this one that says, I don't believe choosing substances is responsible and thoughtful, which I think came through before to use substances. Just helping them realize that in the age of development, they're very impulsive. They may say no, and think that they will say no, but situations come and it's in their nature to be impulsive. How we behave in that situation.
Yeah.
Be aware.
Definitely. And that's the hard part, is how do we make middle schoolers aware? Like, how do we get middle schoolers to not be impulsive? It's difficult. Very difficult.
And I think that from my perspective, looking at child protection, is that we assume that students have choice, and they do not always have choices. So as well as, of course, we are always trying to encourage middle schoolers, high schoolers to make good choices and responsible choices, but the reality is that they do not have a choice in many situations about substances. Either that choice is that they live in a home or substances are used for misuse. Someone of power or older than them is intentionally giving them or manipulating them with substances. They do not have a choice. There are elements of developmental ability to make a choice, and what we do know is that I just wanted to respect that, it is not always coming from within their peers or from within their circles. It's coming from other places, and that also may have been their parents' or family's experience too. So it's never been outside of that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Definitely. All right. Are there any other thoughts about the role play activity? Just want to welcome. So we're going to move into kind of how we teach day 3. This is the third day. It's all about your mental health, all about what coping skills are you using and things like that. So the first thing that we kind of start with, as we did before, our definitions. This third day is all about your mental health. We talked about what coping skills are. So the first definition that we have is mental health, and that is the balance of positive and negative emotions. And usually this is done with Tim Robinson, the counselor, or myself, or Anna, or Amy. And so we're just going to kind of go over this. I think I've only taught this once, and then this first. So I think I did it the first time. So it's a little bit of pain for Anna. Mental health is the only definition that we encourage them to write down, and we have a space for it in their notes.
So we asked them to think about these traits and whether they've ever noticed them in themselves or in a peer. I think it's probably a little hard to read for you guys, so I'll just read it out loud. Do you ever notice that you're feeling like you don't have anyone to talk to? Crying or tearful or being bullied? That you might feel like you don't belong to any group, club, team, or friend circle? That you're not involved as much as you used to be with your peers or your family or your church? Or have you ever been involved in an activity that you enjoyed but now are not doing? And those are all sort of moments of isolation, and isolation is one of the biggest risk factors for substance use, at least as a coping mechanism. So we kind of highlight this with the students to have them think about it from that perspective, and not just from the partying and the peer pressure, but also sometimes it's about dealing with feelings. And then we talk about other ways that they can deal with feelings. And one of the things that's really interesting about this, and that's a comment that we've gotten from students, is sometimes they feel like they recognize this because they've heard it in suicide prevention classes, because this is sort of the same kind of isolation that's reflected there. And it's great insight from 7th and 8th graders, and we just highlight this. It's sort of an extension of, when feelings like this go on for a long time. Some people cope with them with substances, and other people cope in other ways.
And I want to reflect on kind of how this reflects with our substance misuse definition of causing problems at home, at school, or at work, or having health or legal issues. And that can kind of be reflected in all this, as if you start seeing problems here and there and asking these questions. That's kind of a really key point of being able to ask those difficult questions. For folks who have had suicide training, for instance, you need to ask the question, are you thinking of killing yourself? And that is a very hard question to ask, but it's necessary. By doing that, you're giving them the impetus to actually want to respond. And you're maybe startling them a little bit, but you have to ask that question. And it's the same sort of thing here. But it's necessary. Having a safe adult, one of the things that we have them do is writing down names of people that they find to be safe adults. Ideally, it's a parent or a guardian, also someone from Homer Middle School. Making them at least one of the names of the staff at Homer Middle School is another key, is just making sure that this network within the school is highlighted for all students.
Yeah, I mean, often students identify first their parents, many of them as a safe adult, but we like to kind of build outside of the family and outside of the home, because sometimes when the problem is with one of your parents or it's in the home, it doesn't feel like a safe place to reach out. So really, as many places in the community where they can find someone to reach out to as possible. And we do sometimes hear from the students that they can't think of anyone, that they don't have an adult that they would talk to, or they, some sort of half joking, they say my parents would go crazy, they freak out. And our response to that is always, well, you don't know me that well. It's maybe my second day in your classroom, and I might not remember your name, but part of my job is helping people, and I am a safe adult. And if you see me at the grocery store and you come up to me and tell me that you need help, I will help you. And I say that there are more people in the world like that than you realize. I think probably being a teen can feel pretty lonely sometimes, and you can feel like you don't matter to a lot of adults. But I always try to highlight that whoever's in the room, I wrote them in with me. I say, if Connor's in the grocery store, I'm in the grocery store, and you see us, we are always people that you can ask for. But I always try to highlight that whoever's in the room, I wrote them.
We go a little bit into risk factors. This is kind of maybe like the upper level stuff that we start talking about. But these are some of the risk factors for substance use, to begin using as a child. Family history. We know that genetics has a large role to play in addiction. If someone's family member has alcoholism, the higher chance that their child is going to have alcoholism. If it's not properly prevented by mitigation. Tough times. We can also call this trauma. Kind of how you want to phrase that, but if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling left out, if you're constantly feeling kind of away from other people, or just kind of dealing with those emotions of trauma, of tough times, there's a decent chance that someone's going to be moving towards substances. think I saw a stat recently of like 81% of folks that use or are addicted to heroin had some form of trauma in their life at some point. And I wouldn't even be surprised if it was higher than that, just because trauma numbers are so underreported. I think I saw a stat recently.
Yeah, so overwhelming stress, we try to break this down a little bit more for them because there's normal stress that I have a test and kind of stress that pushes you to study for that test. That is healthy, it's time limited, and that's not what we need here. We also don't need stress like the loss of a family member in the case where you have adequate support from the people in your life, where you have those adults you can talk to, you have healthy relationships with friends. You're experiencing stress, but there are other factors in your life that mitigate that stress and help you get through it. But the overwhelming stress is experiencing something that's ongoing, not time limited, that is very difficult to handle, and you don't have those supports. And then not asking for help in a situation like that. We really hammer on this as well. Just know that you can reach out to people because it's going to increase your risk for substance use if you don't ask for help when you get into these situations. And then the single greatest risk factor that we highlight for them, mostly because it's the one that they have the most control over, is early use. It has that effect of increasing risk for addiction later in life, and many of them have a choice that they can make.
And that's not to say that there aren't other risk factors. Those are just the ones that we do highlight in the class. We also provide these resources. Again, there are more resources to be out there, but these are kind of the ones that are immediate, in-homer, that are easily accessible for anyone of any age. The center, South Peninsula Behavioral Health Services. Haven House has a 24-hour helpline. The rec room, we're always open to helping teens. We're only open from 3 to 6, but there's a lot of help that we can do outside of those hours as well. As well as this new texting number, the 741-741, and any teen or anyone can really be connected to a crisis counselor within seconds. Especially having smartphones, all these kids know how to use them a lot better than most of us do in this room. But that's a really great way that they can connect, especially when they don't want to talk. Sometimes it's a lot easier just to write messages about this, or maybe just asking questions that way. But that's another resource that we can provide.
And what I like to highlight for them is if they want to call and they want to talk to someone and they want to have a conversation, they can call Haven House whenever they want. Yeah, we have a 24-hour hotline. But if they are in a space where they don't feel safe, they're worried that they might be overheard, they can be in their room, like in bed, pretending to sleep, and be texting this crisis line. So, I think it's a really great resource.
And that text line is the most common for use crisis line.
They can be in their room, like in bed,
Another last part of day 3 are role plays, of giving them the opportunity to really think about what they would do in a situation, how they would actually respond, giving them the full-on language of what they would do. And this is kind of our usual breakout of how we encourage folks to slowly make these decisions. And it kind of builds on that core practice that we introduced of being able to breathe. It takes 10 seconds to take a full breath of air, breathe in and breathe out, and that alone can help regulate your limbic system, which can be huge when you're just making a small decision whether or not to take a drink, take a hit of something. So we encourage just to use the stop behaviors, which is to say no, refuse to engage, and repeat a refusal, and then talking it out, kind of maybe even making other options like, I don't really feel like doing this today, maybe tomorrow, delaying, or negotiating. I don't want to do this, let's go watch a movie instead, something like that. But giving them very concrete ways of how they can talk about this and refuse to do it is really the best that we can do for day 3.
Yeah, offering explanations, giving clear reasons that they don't want to use it, and then T providing alternatives.
Really the best that we can. Yeah.
My bad.
That's okay.
No, just this last day, we just try to highlight the balance of self-reflection and kind of cultivating those skills that help them handle stress on their own, but also thinking proactively about where they can get help in those moments that it becomes too much for themselves. Because when you are in the crisis is not the time to be looking for support, or to be trying to figure out how to get support, is what I should say. You should know who those people are and know how to reach them when that happens.
I want to go back to the getting help. I want to go back to the getting help just while I'm thinking about it. These are also resources that parents can call. That if y'all have any questions about this, Rec room's a resource, the center's a resource. There's a lot of places that you can go if you have questions about this. Sue, I know we could talk for days about healthy parenting skills, and that's fantastic that we have that in our community. But there are a lot of resources out there for parents, not just for teens, but just kind of some of the things that we're able to provide. And that's basically the end of day 3. When we finish up the role plays, they're done. So we've given them kind of the tools that we can give them to move on. I know it's built upon by what John and Bonnie do, in their classrooms, and they talk a lot about communication as well, and kind of help compound exactly what we're doing. But that's kind of what we have. I did want to make a quick plug for the Anonymous People. It's a film about recovery, about opioid addiction and the recovery therefrom. Jess, would you be able to speak a little bit more to that? I would.
So Recover Alaska, I can spell AIDS. So our goal is to change social norms. The Anonymous People is working to do that. It's a film working to destigmatize addiction and recovery. There's an estimated 20 million individuals suffering from addiction currently in the U.S. Only about 2 million are in recovery from that addiction and stop treatment. So there's this huge disparity between the number of people who need treatment for a substance or alcohol use disorder and people who are actually receiving it. So Anonymous People interacting with individuals in recovery who have gone through addiction can really work to destigmatize addiction and recovery. So Recover Alaska is partnering with Bearded Sister. Will be at Homer Public Library tomorrow night, 6 to 8, screening the film. It's about an hour long, and then we're gonna Bearded Sister will facilitate a dialogue after that. So please come.
I'm planning on attending as well, so if anyone has any questions, I'll be there as well. That is kind of what we have for y'all this evening. I really appreciate everyone coming out. Now is kind of the time if you want to ask any questions about our lessons, about anything that we do at the rec room, anything like that, we're totally open to it. But thank you all for coming and eating our sushi. Really appreciate that. No, it's okay. I walked back there. Yeah. Thank you, Homer.
I am the trainer.
Again.